Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is LB the Realist with Surrealistic Studios, Surreal News, where the real is surreal. I got another one for you. So, I was browsing my Facebook here, and an article popped up from Think Progress that I think that we should all be aware of, especially people that still, undeniably and, I guess, ignorantly, without trying to diss anybody, people that ignorantly follow Trump in everything that he does, everything that he says, every action that he takes. I think it's important to realize that we should never be so wrapped up in an individual or a candidate, or not a candidate, but our political representatives, our senators, our presidents, our whatever office they hold. We shouldn't be so enamored with them that they could literally do anything and we would be okay with that, because eventually the shit's going to end up on your front door and your front porch. And you're going to have to ask yourself, oh, am I supporting this still? If that makes any kind of sense to you guys. So Trump pushes up to 20 years in prison for pipeline protesters. 20 years in prison for pipeline protesters. The Trump administration is seeking to dramatically escalate federal penalties for pipeline protesters. Under newly proposed changes, pipeline protesters could face up to 20 years in prison for disrupting the construction of oil and gas infrastructure. The move echoes similarly, I can't even say this word. Similarly, harsh penalties for anti-pipeline activists being adopted in several states. Updates proposed to the Transportation Department's Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, or the PHMSA, released Monday, would make interrupting pipeline construction or damaging existing pipelines a federal crime. According to the proposed PHMSA updates, first reported by Politico, vandalism, tampering with, or impeding, disrupting, or inhibiting the operation of pipelines will be met with fines or potentially many years in jail. Under current law, damaging existing pipelines can lead up to 20 years jail time, but those under construction are now a consideration, as well as with disruption to pipelines. Other components of the PHMSA updates, including changing the thresholds for damages incurred by a pipeline accident before an operator is recorded to report a crime. The proposal would double the 100,000 threshold currently in place. The administration argues that the changes are key to ensuring safety. At least one fossil fuel industry group immediately welcomed the updates. The Natural Gas Council, or the NGC, called the proposed changes a positive step and said the organization looks forward to reviewing PHMSA's specific recommendations and to participating in the process to produce a bill that enhances the safety of the industry and the communities that we serve. Really. Now, if you cared anything about safety, you wouldn't be installing the pipelines in the first place against everyone's wishes, especially the people that you are referring to, the communities that you serve, or supposedly, quote unquote, serve. The NGC includes that the American Petroleum Institute, or API, and the American Gas Association, or AGA, as members, among others. But environmental groups and activists will likely oppose the proposed measures and are expected to seek legal action against the Trump administration. You goddamn right. The updates are also likely to spark alarm among environmentalists as the proposal positions the federal government against pipeline protesters, marking a new frontier in the acrimonious relationship between the White House and the fossil fuel infrastructure opponents. Activists have relied on pipeline protests as a successful protest tactic used to protest vulnerable communities, including indigenous tribes and low-income people of color, who often suffer the consequences of fossil fuel impacts. Many also see protests as critical to addressing climate change, an approach that has met with legal success. During the Obama administration, pipeline opponents scored major wins, including the blocking of the Dakota Access Pipeline following outcry from indigenous communities, and allies. But President Donald Trump has sought to erode those gains, pushing for pipeline expansion and overruling pushback from impacted communities. In April, Trump signed executive orders clearing the way for oil and gas pipelines to be built more quickly. Those orders target the power of states controlled by pipeline opponents like New York that have long exercised their ability to limit fossil fuel infrastructure. Meanwhile, pipeline-friendly states, which are mostly controlled by Republicans, are ramping up their efforts targeting protesters. Last month, the Texas legislature passed a bill making it a felony for protesters to disrupt pipeline construction. The bill, supported by Governor Greg Abbott, a Republican, would make impairing or interrupting a pipeline punishable by up to 2 years in prison. And if this took place during construction, it would be considered a third-degree felony, punishable by up to a decade of prison time in the state, the country's leading oil and gas producer. Texas isn't alone in cracking down on pipeline protesters. Louisiana, South Dakota, Pennsylvania, and other energy-rich states, here goes that word again, have similarly, I gotta really sound it out, people, I'm sorry. Similarly, there we go, similarly, sought harsh penalties for pipeline protesters, who they accuse of hindering safety and the economy. In addition to targeting protesters on the scene of anti-pipeline demonstrations, some lawmakers have also proposed targeting supporters of those protests, even when they are not physically present. See, okay, there's one more paragraph here. But protesters have fought back, many arguing that their free speech rights are being compromised by such laws. In May, environmental groups and demonstrators sued to challenge Louisiana's law after being arrested in 2018 near the controversial Bayou Bridge pipeline, then under construction. Texas advocates have said they are monitoring the progress of legal efforts in Louisiana for an indicator of how they might fare in challenging the Texas legislation. Okay, so again, that was an article by Think Progress by E.A. Crunden. This was just yesterday here, June 3rd, 2019. So everything that Obama did, Trump is just trying to reinvigorate it. He's just trying to do it times 10. So a lot of this stuff Obama actually backed off on, but Trump is just ramping it up. Like, he's just making it worse, and we all know that Trump actually has deals with these companies, so he doesn't want anybody to stop these pipelines from being constructed. And the administration is doing everything in their power to make sure that nothing impedes their black gold mining or their fucking, oil success. So this is what we're dealing with here. They're trying to give protesters and even people that were not, or that are not even present at that location, years in prison for doing what's right, for standing up for the earth, for standing up for water, for air, for the human right to live in peace and not be poisoned, not have their water supplies poisoned, not have their earth poisoned. When you stand up for what's right in this world, you're punished. And when you stand up for what's wrong, they love you. You're elevated. It's unbelievable. But this is what we're dealing with, people. So that's just a little update as far as, the pipelines go. 20 years in prison for pipeline protesters, people. Let me know what you have to say in the comment section below. Like this video if you like, share it, and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm going to try to keep cranking these out for you guys so we can keep this information flowing. Because, if you never say anything, a lot of people just won't know. All right, until next time, people. I'm out. Keep fighting, keep spreading enlightenment. Find me on all social media, and I'll see you guys.